What's up, meta nerds? This video is all about the C-9979 landing craft. This thing was an extremely important part of the CIS military because this transport got all of our favorite droids and vehicles to the battlefront. It was manufactured by Howard Engineering, that company that was ran by the Zychar, our bug friends that got pleasure from making awesome droid vehicles, like the Hailfire droid and the Vulture droid. And what's cool is that we actually have a price for this thing, 200,000 credits, which is a lot of money in the Star Wars universe, considering that a Vulture droid costs 19,000 credits, the cost of a new Toyota Corolla. But even though this landing craft might seem expensive, remember that its job is to get all those other high-tech droids and vehicles to and from the battlefield quickly and safely. And when this thing flew off of the assembly line, it was 210 meters or 688 feet long, which is longer than the Typhoon-class nuclear submarine, the largest sub ever made at 574 feet, the same length as 3 A6 Juggernaut turbo tanks. And to make sure all those droids get to the battlefront extra fast, it has a top speed of 587 kilometers per hour, or 364 miles per hour. And they didn't have a hyperdrive. Instead, they would be stored upon Lucrehulk-class battleships, which would put itself in the planet's orbit, and then release swarms of landing craft, which would in turn deploy the forces needed for a land-based invasion. Now, for weapons, there isn't that much to talk about, because of course, this thing isn't a starfighter, and it only had a pair of blaster cannons located at the tips of those front wings, along with 4 smaller turret-mounted cannons. But of course, this thing isn't impressive because of its firepower, but because of what's on the inside. So let's go ahead and take a look at everything that's packed into this thing by using some amazing cross sections. In total, it could carry 11 multi-troop transports, 28 platoon assault crafts, and 114 armored assault tanks. As you can see, they were all stored along the wings. Each wing had its own repulsor lift track, and this worked kind of like a railway system, which would be able to move the vehicle into the staging area. This staging area had giant transport clamps. Just like an arcade game, these giant clamps would come down, pick up the vehicle, and then move it onto the deployment ramp. And to make sure that these things don't get destroyed as soon as they enter the battlefront, the main doors had field perimeter detectors, which could sense if there were any landmines, electrical fields, or any other traps in the area. This landing craft also could deploy a CIS mobile command center, and even had room for a Sheathipede-class transport shuttle. To make sure everything ran smoothly, they had 60 repair droids on board, including 40 OOM command battle droids, 39 OOM pilot droids, and 164 OOM security battle droids. They were responsible for making sure that these repulsor lifts were well maintained, and that this enormous craft with its expensive and very important payload could make it to and from the battlefield safely. Having proved itself during the invasion of Naboo, the CIS continued its use throughout the Clone Wars. It demonstrated a terrifying ability to be able to take a planet from having no CIS military presence at all to being completely overwhelmed by ground forces all within a few hours. Sadly, we don't hear about any C-9979 landing crafts being used after the Clone Wars. But before you go, you should definitely hear these cool facts and some behind the scenes stuff. There are a few interesting variants of this landing craft, like the C-9969. This one was slightly larger and could carry a couple more vehicles. But what's really interesting is that there was at least one variant that had a hyperdrive installed in it, and another one that was just packed full of Vulture droids. And did you know that George Lucas originally envisioned the CIS transport ship to look kind of like a big blimp, and it had a bunch of little cocoon-like parts that carried vehicles? But eventually, one of the other artists came up with the idea of making it look like a dragonfly. And George Lucas liked that this also resembled a biplane, which of course kept in the theme of making many CIS vehicles look like animals, while also satisfying George Lucas's love of World War I and World War II aircraft. Well, that's it for the C-9979 landing craft. If you liked it, go ahead and hit that like button, and be sure to leave a comment down below if I missed any cool facts, or if you have a suggestion for future videos. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at MetaNerdsLore, so you can see us build Star Wars props and cosplays, along with some other cool Star Wars stuff. If you want to help support this channel, check out the description below for our Amazon store and our Patreon. And be sure to subscribe, because we're making videos like this every single day. Thanks to everybody who watched and helped out during the live stream of the making of this video. But remember, most important of all, always try and shoot down the landing craft before it, well, lands. And the Force will be with you, always.